they open themselves up to they have to be deposed. They have to take place in depositions. They have to answer discovery, and it's an intrusive process. So does Palm want to turn over those cell phone records? Does he want to answer questions under oath? Does his wife know anything? Do his friends know anything? Were there any other witnesses in the locker room? I mean, all those people are now going to have to answer questions under oath.
Wow.
And I'm not sure he wants to do that.
Wow. And in the case of Mr. Kraft, though, what about him going to court? The same situation?
Well, same thing. You know, I mean, people are generally averse to taking place, you know, in the discovery process and deposition. But look, his value is tied to the brand. It's tied to the New England Patriots brand, and he certainly has an argument that by the NFL essentially going rogue and just creating rules as they go along in terms of the investigation and the report, that it's tarnished this brand and cost him, really limitless amount of damages. Only time will tell in terms of how do sponsors react, how do fans react to that brand.
And finally, in your opinion, how do you see this thing playing out when it's all said and done?
I think that this suspension is going to be reduced. I'm not sure if it will be reduced to 0 games, but I would not be surprised if it went from 4 to 2, and that the fines were cut in half. One thing that's buried in the collective bargaining agreement is that the maximum fine is really $500,000. And so what the league did is they found 2 penalties and assessed $500,000 each to reach the $1 million total.
Oh.
So it's a bit of, yes, there is some good lawyering there, but that sets a dangerous precedent. So what if they want to fine you $5 million? Well, they could just find 10 little things, right? So they fine them for the offense of deflating the footballs, and then they fine them for not cooperating with the process. And that's how they got 2 different fines of $500,000 each.
Oh, those sneaky NFL guys. He's Steve Silver. I'm Big Mike. This is the Sports Kings podcast. He's the founder of LegalBlitz.com. You guys can find him on the intranet machine on Twitter at The Legal Blitz. Now, moving on to something that happened on Friday. Now, Steve, you don't know me that well yet, but I'm a guy who likes to be right. But, and there is a but, when I'm wrong about something, I like to learn. I like to become educated as well. And that is what you did with your article, Georgia's new Todd Gurley law does nothing to protect athletes. You guys can find it on Deadspin.com. It's a wonderful argument. And Steve, this is something that I've been clamoring for some time now, since the Terrell Pryor situation. Like, I couldn't stand to see a kid be punished. Meanwhile, I felt like these adults were preying on these college kids. And when they became reluctant to continue to provide signatures or memorabilia or whatever it may have been, they turned on them and turned them into the NCAA, causing these guys to lose eligibility, lose playing time on the football field. And I was like, something needs to be done. And then my co-host brought to my attention this Todd Gurley law. It's Georgia House Bill number 3. And I'm going to explain to you guys what it is real quick. Under this new law, I'm reading straight from Steve's article. Under this new law, people like the dealers who paid Gurley can now be prosecuted criminally for misdemeanors of as quote-unquote high and aggravated nature. Under Georgia law section 17-10-4, that means a fine of up to $5,000 and up to 1 year in jail. And I thought that was a win. I thought that was a win for the kids. And you, sir, changed my mind. But trying to think how I want to. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, you like to be right. I just like to win. So whether I'm right or wrong, as long as I'm winning, it's okay.
So you mentioned in the article that that it criminalizes capitalism. And what it actually did, it caused me to realize that I was arguing against myself, because I'm a person who says to me, to the NCAA, my name is mine. My image is mine. This is the basis of the whole Ed O'Bannon case that's now in appellate court. And the fact that other people, anyone else, can profit off of who I am and I can't is fundamentally wrong to me. Before we get into the Q&A part, can you give us your take on that entire ball of wax there, if you could?
Sure, it's a lot. And actually just last month, and this ties into it, I had the honor of going down to South Carolina and testifying in front of the South Carolina Senate in support of a bill, Senator Kimpson out of Charleston, to create postgraduate trust funds for Division I student athletes. And this would be something that would create, let's say, $5,000 per year. It's payable upon receipt of your degree, so it incentivizes actually graduating, and it provides some compensation to help these student athletes when they graduate, because guess what? If they don't go pro, nobody's picking up their health care costs. Nobody's helping them, find jobs because they majored in some fraudulent major that a coach steered them to. So, it's something I'm passionate about, and the NCAA is, I don't even get me started on them. I think we have the same mindset.
Oh, my man.
But,
my man.
But where we're at is not necessarily straight up paying athletes, but to open up the market. Okay? Only so many of these college athletes are actually profitable.
Right.
Nobody probably wants to buy a shirt with the third string tackle's face on it. Okay? But Johnny Football, that trademark is valuable.
He built them a new
stadium.
stadium.
Be able to capitalize on it.
That kid allowed them to reinvent that entire stadium down there at College Station. But yet he signs a couple of autographs, and there's a big deal.
Yep. I mean, listen, my undergraduate alma mater is Northwestern, which is right at the heart of the union and labor issues. Not necessarily a powerhouse football school, but we're building a lakeside athletic complex for, I think, $300 million. So to say that there's no money for the students is ridiculous.
It is.
Okay? Every single one of these athletic departments is set up as a nonprofit. So they have to spend as much money as possible to make it look like zero. It's ridiculous. But this law has some unintended consequences that could bite the schools in the future.
Yeah. You mentioned just a few seconds ago, the idea of straight up paying college students. Now, my opinion on that is the NCAA loves that. They love that narrative is out there because they understand that no one knows how it can be done, so they can keep these people juggling these things right and left, knowing that there really is no end to that tunnel. There is no way to have a salary-based college football or basketball system. Any rational person knows that. But where they run into the problem, to me, is if Todd Gurley, for example, the local Chevy dealer in Athens, wants to let Todd Gurley drive a truck for a semester for appearing on a 30-second commercial, by all means, he should be able to. And I always point to guys like Braxton Miller. Braxton Miller's in a situation right now where who he is isn't the same person to the world of college football as it was 2 years ago before he got hurt. So his value, in essence, has fallen. And as you just said, everyone is not going to be able. That whole notion of fairness is not going to be able to exist. The girls forward on the forward on the girls soccer team is not going to have the same value as AJ Green. It's just not possible. But the NCAA, I think they thrive in the fact that people still keep having that ignorant conversation as though it's a real thing. And I want to get your thoughts on that as well.
Well, that was actually the main concern of a lot of the senators that I was in front of too. Was, well, if we pay athletes directly, or we allow them to market themselves, or we give them post-grad money, how do we do it equally? And it's never been done, so we don't know how the courts would come out. But what I pointed to, and there's a major case that occurred in California in the early 90s, and that case involved USC, is what all the schools use to defend themselves when they pay male coaches $5 to $10 million and women's coaches, a few $100,000. So we already have unequal pay in college sports.
Right.
And let's also look at the Power Five. This year, they're giving travel stipends to families to go to bowl games in the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, but who's that impacting? Football and basketball. Okay, that's not equal. So we already have payment. Now that's in the form of a cash travel stipend to the parents, but it's pretty equivalent to just giving cash to the players.
Absolutely.
So it's already being done to some extent. So to say it can't be done is ridiculous.
I'm of the opinion that we are in the midst of, we're watching a century-long institution crumble brick by brick, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. And I think there's only a matter of time before this whole thing has to be redone and be updated and get caught up to the time that we're living in right now. My question for you, as a guy who has dedicated a portion of his life to this, how do you see that actually playing out? Because I'm not smart enough to know that. I just know what I'm seeing currently. But looking 5, maybe 10 years down the road, how do you see this thing playing out, especially due to the fact that you went to Northwestern and the things that have gone on there with them trying to unionize and all these things?
Right, and it's a complicated issue. I think what will happen is, as the money continues to grow, right, the TV money, sponsorships, now you have, the playoff money. As that continues to grow, I think one of the things that will happen is someone's going to create a competitor. I mean, it's only a matter of time before someone tries out, hey, let's take 18 to 22-year-olds and have an NFL minor league. Because that's what college is now, right? The NFL loves the system it has. It has one of the best player development systems in the world, and they don't pay a dime for it.
Right.
Same to some extent with the NBA, although that's more of an international game, so there are some options for kids. But I think as the money grows, it's going to take an entrepreneur that's going to try it out, and more importantly, it's probably going to go to the courts. The judicial system or Congress or state-by-state legislatures are going to have to change things because, as you mentioned, it's crumbling brick by brick, but within the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years, it's really been floor by floor as the TV money grows. As the TV money grows and the coaches' salaries skyrocket, I mean, where do we go next? You're going to have guys making $20 million a year to coach teenagers. I mean, what's Harbaugh making? $10 million?
Right. And the funny thing about that is, you tell me that the kid, his image has no value, but I dare anyone to tell me who the coach of Indiana is, and that you go watch the football game to see him.
Exactly. And it's getting there. I mean, an NCAA conducts investigation in a way that makes the NFL look like, the best investigators in the world. I think there was a story. I think what's most telling is that story that came out of Baylor earlier this year with the homeless player who took, housing, and then they ruled him ineligible.
Absurd is what that is.
No
it's absurd.
Right. So no matter what the facts were of that, who was right, who was wrong, every person in America read that headline or heard that story and thought, yeah, that sounds about right for the NCAA.
Right. No one was surprised.
That's where we're at. Okay, and look, the problem you have is that the NCAA serves, I think, 300 plus schools, and in that the Power 5 breakoff, I mean, that's starting. It's only a matter of time before those conferences just say, we're going it alone. We don't need the NCAA. Let the NCAA handle the D3 and D3-2 sports where there's no TV money.
I revel. I'll be the first one to the party the day that happens. Ladies and gentlemen, he's Steve Silver,